Here.
You can all rise for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We start tonight's meeting with a public hearing on the 2016-2017 tax levy. And at this time, we'll call the public hearing to order. Are there any questions? With that, we will close the hearing. Next, we have public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. Do we have cards? First, we have Wendy Rhodes, and she is going to speak on lice policy.
Would you like me to just speak right up here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm continuing to speak against the license policy that was proposed on the 6th. The reason being is that it's not going to stop any form of reinfestation with the schools. When I first started my research 2 months ago, I had asked on the 2 different District 428 Facebook pages parents to send me their information, to send me their stories of what they've been dealing with. And within 2 days, I've gotten 23 pages of stories from parents. We've had it for years, can't get rid of it, $1,000 here, $500 there. And I picked some of the stories to read to you. I won't go over 3 minutes. My 5th grader was pulling lice off his head, putting it on the desk. The teacher saw him and brushed it onto the floor. It ran through our entire house of 5 and even got to our grandparents. Another lady, this is a community problem. I have a child care center, and this is out of control. The older siblings are giving lice to the younger children, and after I do head checks, I send them home. DCFS regulations for the centers for children, they can only return after 24 hours after treatment has begun. The youngest student to get it was 6 months old. Another, my daughter had a nasty case that took 4 hours for us to treat. She's had it twice this year. A teacher wrote me, I had it 3 times last year. Another teacher, she had it a month ago. Another teacher said this year, 4 kids in her class have had it. 1 student has had it 5 times. She sent the child to the nurse because she could see the lice crawling on the student's head. The nurse sent the student back to class and never called the parents. The teacher called the parents later that day. Our entire family's had it, all 5 of us. My children attend 3 different schools. Our family has passed it around unknowingly last year at Christmas. We shared the hat for Santa. We gave it to our extended family. My 5 kids attend 4 different schools within District 428. Another family, we had to keep treating and retreating our kids. The shampoos burnt their heads. And alas, both of my kids have had it. The nurse checked one of my children and said that she was fine because they were only nits. I picked her up and I checked her head. She was infested with lice. My child shares a locker with 6 others. Nobody was notified. The policy that was proposed to keep kids in school, to only notify after 3 cases within 2 weeks have been found. That's not going to stop anything. We need to keep kids out of school with lice. We need to tell the parents right away so we can take an active approach and make sure we're checking our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brandy Liebert.
Okay. All right. So good evening. I just wanted to say I'm a mother of 2 students in our district. A few years ago was my first experience with the district. However, it was absolutely awful only in reference to the lice situation. First off, I had no clue whatsoever that I was in the dark about lice and its presence. I learned the hard way, as many of us unfortunately have to do. I first noticed lice on one of our children because my youngest at that time came home with a notice from his daycare that a child had it and that we should check. So naturally I checked and found 2 on my youngest, and then I checked my oldest, who was in kindergarten at that time, and let's just say he had quite a few. I freaked, and lo and behold, both my children had lice, and I was in meltdown mode, as having never dealt with lice before. I work full-time with animals for a living. I see fleas, ticks, and other parasites, and all that's normal to me, and I educate owners and pick bugs from animals, but lice on my children was a very foreign concept. I spent hours treating, cleaning, washing, reading, and educating myself on what to do. Then it occurred to me that my husband and I needed to be checked too. So there I went, combing through my husband's hair, who was moaning and groaning and complaining, telling me I was wasting my time and overreacting. Well, what do you know? He had them too. He immediately changed his tone and wanted my help. So there we were, checking each other's hair as best as any husband can really check when I had mid-back length hair. So I chopped it off, and I was lucky that I escaped lice at that time. So for the first time ever in my husband's life at the age of 32, he too had lice. All four of us were treated to be sure, and daily cleaning, washing, picking, and vacuuming began. Both of us worked full-time jobs, so this cleaning regimen ran into the late hours each night after work, and our kids stayed up much later as a result to complete it all effectively. We were exhausted. Time went by, and they continually got it here and there. So I shaved my boys' heads against their wishes, through tears and all. To this day, I check every single day, and the incident that had me livid and still makes me livid thinking about it was when I was pulled aside by a teacher who wasn't even our own. After a movie day where they got to select special classrooms to go and watch a movie, she let me know to check my kids immediately after getting home because a child was witnessed picking lice off of their head and from the pencil tip on their pencil was flicking them through the room. So I completely was mortified and disgusted that this child was not removed and sent home. As most of you agree, we do pay some pretty hefty taxes in DeKalb and expect more from our schools in respect to lice and other contagious illnesses and parasites. We deserve to be informed, and I will admit out of frustration, my husband and I have looked into other schooling options and ways to get out from under our house. However, the teachers that we've experienced over the last 3 years have been absolutely fabulous and are part of the reason why we're still here. I believe DeKalb schools have been in a negative eye for a while, and one way to try and change that is to develop a strong lice and contagious illness policy and inform the policy to be sure it's followed through on. We just want you guys to say, yes, we are listening. Yes, we hear you, and we will respond with compassion and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I just wanted to thank, Wendy, and had some passion about this particular topic, and the people that you brought in with you. It does make a difference to hear the community's input, and we do encourage everybody. Certainly, this is an unfortunate topic, but we certainly appreciate the passion that it takes to spend your time to come in here and talk to us about it, and it does matter.
Thank you. Next, we have board committee reports and correspondence. Howard?
I would like to mention Tyler School's winter sing, I think last Friday. I attended it. The kids sang beautifully, and this is where we get the start of the madrigals that we just heard out there. It begins young and keeps on going. So congratulations on another great performance at Tyler. Thanks.
Franklin got it.
So lots of updates from secondary and elementary curriculum from Vicki and Kim. Map testing, data analysis, we talked about a lot of stuff being done in the curriculum areas. Committee, many things going on in the district that we haven't really necessarily seen yet. But it's really hard to get things moving forward. So thanks, guys.
We did have an FFAC meeting last Wednesday night. We spent probably 75% of the meetings talking about the restructuring of the bonds, which we'll have a presentation on tonight, so I'll leave that to discuss that. We had a good meeting. Anybody else? Next, we have the possible expulsion of student number 122016A. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the expulsion of student number 122016A as identified in the student's file kept in the superintendent's office for the remainder of the 2016-2017 school year, as well as the entire 2017-2018 school year.
Yes, so I'd like to move that student 122016A, we uphold the expulsion, hold it in abeyance based on the student's enrollment in a safe school, adequate progress toward accumulating credit, drug education and testing for the remainder of 2016-17 school year, as well as the entire 2017-18 school year.
Roll call, please.
Red Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Hirsch,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Mary Malett,
Yes.
Victoria Ford,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Sullivan.
Yes.
Next, we have the possible expulsion of student number 122016B. This is an action item. Did the Board of Education approve the expulsion of student number 122016B as identified in the superintendent's file kept in the superintendent's office for the remainder of the 2016-2017 school year, as well as the entire 2017-2018 school year? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move that student 122016B, that we uphold his expulsion and hold it in abeyance based on the student's enrollment in a safe school, adequate progress toward accumulating credit, drug education and testing for the remainder of the 2016-17 school year, as well as the entire 2017-18 school year.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Vicky Hirsch,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Mary Malett,
Yes.
Victoria Ford,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Sullivan,
Yes.
Red Davis.
Yes.
Next are presentations, advanced refunding of bonds results, and this is an informational item. Kathy, do you want to start?
So part of a multi-year process, we've been looking at advanced refunding and then refunding bonds that at the time will be callable when that date is certain moving forward. But the FFAC committee was tasked with examining this further. And with that, we are taking action, or we already took action from the resolution that was passed by the school board on advanced refunding $9.9 million worth of bonds for cost savings to the taxpayers of a little over $1 million. So this evening, we're going to start with Adrian. And we have hired Ehlers as our municipal financial advisors. And then following Adrian, Elizabeth Hennessy will follow up with a presentation on what the plan is moving forward. And John, I'm sorry, I didn't know which one of you wants to present.
Should I stand here?
You can come.
Good evening. Again, my name is Adrian Booker. I'm with Ellen & Associates. We are the municipal advisor for the district for the Series 2016 issue. And our role was to provide a layer of oversight to this process and review to the process to the district as municipal advisor. That covered all the levels from looking at the financial documents to the legal terms, as well as the financing in and of itself. And you'll have this already in your packets, that the district had a very successful sale of the GEO school refunding bonds. And with that, they were privately placed with Capital One Funding LLC. The sale day was on the 2nd of December, and the closing day will be tomorrow morning. The district achieved its goal in refunding savings that will go to district taxpayers, over $1 million of gross savings, or what we call a net present value savings of 9.079% of the Series 2008 refunded bonds. Out of the 21 potential purchasers that were contacted by William Blair, the district received 2 proposals. It doesn't seem like that's a lot of proposals, but given the timing of the year, given the market that we're in, it's not abnormal at all. As a matter of fact, about a week ago, we did a private placement transaction, received 2 proposals, we put out 16 bids. We did one just today, put out 13 bids, we got in 3 proposals. So many people have closed their books. A lot of the non-participation is attributable to the specific timing of the sale. Many have said to us that they were closing their books this time in December. Because of the bond structure or the size, some of them said, while they could take a portion of it, one in particular could take a portion of it, the large size to them was too large. Some just didn't want to deal with Illinois paper, and we get that a lot throughout Illinois because of the state funding issues. And some of them just didn't have a relationship with the district. And again, these were all banks, or there was one in particular that was a school district, or actually a village. But in any event, most of these are financial institutions, so when they take on the debt, they are not going to trade it in what we call the secondary market. Capital One, they submitted a proposal with a 3.1% true interest cost. Worth Township Treasurer, it was Worth Township, that was the non-financial institution. They also submitted a proposal at a true interest cost of 3.4%. So we went with the Capital One bid. One of the things that we do at Ellers as well is that we check how comparable this sale would be in the public market against others. And that's nothing different than what Elizabeth's team did with William Blair. And with that, we were very consistent in terms of what we found in terms of the comparables that were provided by Blair, the cities of Oak Forest and Rock Island. In addition to using those comparables, Ellers used the Village of Oak Park and Bartlett, Community Unit School District number 4. And overall, we found that the district's yield spreads to the municipal market data was comparable to similarly other rated sales, even though this was a non-rated issue. So in spite of the increase, the market just spoke and said that they were still interested in the bonds, and therefore you got a relatively good rate. Overall, the district benefited from the low cost of not doing this. You did it in what we call a private placement instead of doing what we call a public negotiated sale. You saved on costs that would be required if you were to do it publicly. An official statement, which is an offering document that would cost a little bit more, and the services of an underwriter as well. So we'd like to thank you for the opportunity. We believe that it was a very good sale. We think that all aspects of the sale are covered, including the closing and how all of that is working. And we believe that from start to finish, the terms and the closing, it was pretty good.
Good evening, thanks for having me. Elizabeth William Blair. Our firm acted as placement agent on the sale of the bonds. So we worked with Adrian as financial advisor to come up with a list of banks. And as she mentioned, we really scoured the local banks for participation first. Unfortunately, they couldn't step up to the full amount. And somebody would take a small piece, but it was just not enough. So I won't repeat everything Adrian said, other than to say, as you know, since November 8th, the bond market has been extremely volatile. So in our graph, we show the last 5 years, and you can see the very steep increase in interest rates that we've had since the election. We had a little reprieve last week, but that is because the election was unexpected, and the expectation of lower taxes stimulating the economy and future inflation cause both the stock market to go up as it continues to do, and interest rates on fixed income securities, treasury, and municipal bonds. So even though rates have gone up very quickly, we are still lower than we've been in the last 5 years, and we're still in a generally low interest rate environment. So I was very pleased that we were able to get it done in December here. The Fed spoke last week, as you know, raised interest rates 25 basis points, which was very expected. And again, that is very short term. It's not necessarily going to affect the long-term rate, but what does affect it is the expectation for next year. So they mentioned that they'll have maybe 2 rate increases next year, maybe 3, depending on how things go. So that expectation kind of tells us that rates will probably continue to go up next year. It's just a matter of how fast and what's going to happen with our economy next year as we have this changeover in administration. So this next slide simply shows the yield curve. The green line is where we are now. So that shows interest rates from year 1, which are still low, not as low as they have been, all the way out to year 30. You can see that green line compared to the last 7 years is almost as low as we've been. So that tells us that we're still at competitive interest rates. So let's turn to the refunding update, and I want to try to put this update in context of your overall plans to restructure your debt. So we determined that it would make sense to move forward with a bank qualified refunding here in 2016 calendar year before the call date of bonds, which is next January, in order to lock in savings and do a bank qualified piece. So bonds are bank qualified when the district issues less than 10 million in a year, and that bank qualification provides interest rates that are between 10 and 15 basis points lower than general market. And that's because banks purchasing the bonds of what are qualified small issuers get an extra tax break from the feds, which they pass on to you in terms of lower interest rates. So that was a strategy of going from with 10 million of bonds, because that qualifies for bank qualification. And we chose private placement, as Adrian mentioned, because lower cost of issuance and able to move faster. And luckily, out of these 20 banks, we got 2 pretty good bids. As you know, Capital One won the bid. If we turn the page, this is another way to compare the various interest rates on Capital One versus Worth Township. Both of those have the lower costs associated with a private placement. We have lower interest rates from Capital One, generating that $1,010,000 of savings to the district. We used the same maturities and the rates from these Oak Forest and Rock Island sales to make a comparison there. And they were post sales, so they would have a higher cost of issuance, they had higher underwriting spreads, and the savings would have less. So we feel confident that that was the right direction given the timing and the costs. So if we go to the next page, I want to focus on the EAB and the debt outstanding and how this issue fits into your plan to restructure bonds over the next several years. Over the last several years, we've been talking to the FFAC committee from time to time, several times a year, looking at different options for refunding bonds, the market, looking at possible other sources of revenue to help reduce the debt, given the recent EAB drop. The good news is that the preliminary EAB for 2016 is up by 7.8%. So that is good news, and that it's not happened for a number of years. So hopefully it's the start of a trend. We'll see. Going forward, we've been very conservative with the EAB, assuming only 1% change in the reassessment and new property of only 2.5 million a year. We do have the TIFs, the large TIFs in the city of DeKalb, there's 1 and TIF 2, coming onto the tax rolls in levy year 19 and levy year 2022. So we've shown those estimated values. We haven't put any inflation in those, but just for what we think they are going to be valued at preliminarily for 2016, come on in those various groups. As new property, making the pie bigger, if you will, the EAV pie. So that helps absorb some of the debt payments. If we move to the yellow column, those are the current debt service payments. And they've been very stable since the issuance of the bonds back in beginning after the referendum of 2008, at about 4.7 million a year. Because the bonds have to be paid off in 20 years, the payments go up in the next several years. And luckily, they go up at the time when the bonds are callable, so you have the ability to restructure them, stretch out the payments to let them down. So the yellow box shows the payments that go up to the highest point, just under 15 million. And the tax rate based on these EAV projections show the highest point to be just under 1.9. So and the payments on $150,000 home is then about $300 to $400. It's going to go up at the highest level, just under $800 in that situation in this EAV projection. So let's go to the next page and let's look first at the impact of this 2016 refunding, which was purely for savings. So we refunded bonds and put them right back in place at lower interest rates to generate that $1 million savings. And that saves about $7 on the taxpayer. So this isn't a real restructuring. This is just taking some of the savings, which were significant, and taking advantage of the current market. So let's go to the next slide. And what we've been talking about with FAC is to do a two-stage refunding. It could be done in more stages than this, but we wanted to look at refunding the bonds. I'm sorry for the audience, the numbers are small, but refunding the bonds at the call date because several reasons. There's low cost and negative arbitrage at the call date. When you refund bonds that are currently callable, you can refund them again if you need later on a tax exempt basis. When you refund in advance of the call date, you can only refund them again on a taxable basis. So that's just a flexibility attribute that we like about current refundings. That has to be played off against increasing interest rates. So what we will be doing for the district every month going forward is looking at what is the impact of refunding the bonds in advance of that January 1 call date versus waiting, and what are the break-even increase in interest rates that would make us better off to refund in advance versus wait to that call date. So we'll look at the market, we'll monitor that closely for you. But right now in this projection, we've modeled at current interest rates. We've added a 25 basis point cushion, 0.25%, if we want to be conservative. And showing the next issue in December of 2017, actually it could be done as early as September, within 90 days of the call date. The refunding of the 14 million. Now this is taking bonds that are coming due and stretching them out. Now we get into part of the restructuring. So over time, that does cost money. But because rates are still low, even with these higher interest rates, which we have present values, then we come back in December of 2019 and refund the majority of the rest of the callable bonds, which were issued in 09 and 10. And there's refunding for savings in this, as well as stretching out that debt to result in flattening of the tax rate. And so totally, based on these rates, we're looking at total present value savings of 10 million. Again, we're showing because of the lower interest rates. When we get to 2019, we'll keep revisiting that number, but right now it looks good. So we're stretching out the bonds to 2036 from 2030, so another 6 years. If you compare the yellow box on the far right side with the pink box on the far, or yellow on the left, pink on the right, you can see the new debt structure. The payments level out right around 9 million, 4, going up to about 9 million at the end. The tax rate Instead of, remember the high was about 1.8 is down to right about $1. And for the $150,000 home, instead of going up in the next 6 years to, just under $800, the dollar payment for the $150,000 home is more like $450 on average. So the savings over time for the taxpayer is about $404 over time. But the goal is to make the payments level, to make them more manageable, and to pay off the debt without extending it too far. So going out 6 more years, but I don't feel that for a facility that's for the last many, many years, that's going to exceed the average life. So the next page is the graph. So I think this shows for the people audience. So the bond payments right now are the blue bars on top, and after refunding, the blue bars on the bottom. Questions? Thanks for having me, and we'll keep.
Thank you so much for the update. Next, we have the request to bid food service. This is Ms. Carol Warren, and this is an informational item.
Before we get started on this, what we are required to do every 5 years is to bid the service. So we are in our 5th year, which are most right now. And there's 2 things we're looking to do. To bid the conventional way, which is still somewhat of a modified or blended method because the cooks are on our payroll. And then we have a food service director and supervisor. And as well as we have Chartwell's folks who do the serving, cashiering, and they have a director as well and some additional office folks. In this scenario, we're going to put out 2 different types of bids. To continue to do it the way we currently are in the conventional method. But a few things we have identified, I think, over the past probably 6, 7 years or more, is always our challenges for our elementary schools where we do not cook on site. Because we do not have full service kitchens there, to be able to prepare and send out food and hold it. And now as our enrollment has been growing and we have more students in our lunchrooms and we have more lunch periods, it's a larger challenge to hold that food at temperature for a great number of hours. In fact, 4 to 5 hours, as Carol will go through. So we looked at another option that has come to our attention, and it's called a vended meal. And it's essentially a pre-plated meal, and it's flash frozen, but it does look somewhat like a TV dinner, as you will. However, the appeal of the food is much nicer than putting it in warmers in water for 4 or 5 hours. So Carol's going to walk through this process and some of the ideas and the things that we will be analyzing and assessing moving forward. But so you know, that's what our plan is to put 2 different types of bid out on the streets and see what types of response we have. I know Carol has visited a site that has had a vended meal, and we will be visiting another site for another school district shortly as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Carol.
Thank you. See if you can put that, there we go. Well, that's low. Okay, hold on. Plan B. In past board meetings, I've talked about our challenges that we have in food service. So they're listed in a little teeny print are our challenges. So I thought I'd go over them, and I'm going to have to really go off of this and that. And so we continue with these challenges, and we wanted to shake it up a bit because if we continue on the path that we are, we're not changing anything. So we want to change the status quo. And we really want those elementary kids to get a meal that's freshly coming out of an oven, not waiting 4 or 5 hours as they are right now. And it's the nature of the beast of satelliting. We're not the only school district that experiences this. It's any district that satellites food out. So with those challenges, that's why we're going to talk about the challenges. And really, when we start talking about our challenges, and again, this is the elementary program because we're satelliting, with the exception of Cortland, because we have an on-site kitchen there, so we're cooking on site. We start preparing food about 7 a.m. every day. We're cooking and holding food starting at about 8 a.m. on. Our drivers arrive about 10 a.m. and between 10 and 10:30, they go out and they've got the food on the truck. So the food starts at 7, we're holding it and transporting it at 10 o'clock. And you may ask too, well, what have we done maybe to eliminate some of these challenges? And in the past, about 2 years ago, we added a second driver, onto our route so we could split the district up and try to really utilize our transport time. And it didn't work to a certain extent, but we can only get that food out so fast, again, with the situation we had on hand. So with all these challenges, that's why we're looking to venture on a new endeavor here. And so our serving times at the elementary starts anywhere between 11:25 and 12, and our final serving times, they really go to 1 o'clock. So if you think about it, we're starting to cook at 7, we're loading, we're holding. The kids don't even get these meals till 11:30. Quarter to 12, and then the students that are in our last meal periods, some of our meal periods kind of start at 1 or quarter to 1, so our food is holding for a very long time. It's not a safe thing to do either, besides the quality always being challenging. So our total food time frame from start to finish is about 4 to 5 hours. So think about how would you like a meal that's holding for 45 hours. It's not very good. Our quality's not good, and that will continue on this path unless we change it up. So we're looking to change it up. We're looking for the quality in the menu selection right now is poor currently, and the reason is, there's reasons for that also. It has no reflection on our cooks whatsoever, so I want to make sure that that's very clear. They do a great job with the situation they have. But the problem is, there's only certain meals that you can make at 7 o'clock in the morning and hold and serve and be of quality by the time the kids get it. So we limit our menus, purposely try to wedge that gap, but we just can't. So that's why we're proposing what we're proposing. Food safety challenges are also in this. We're holding food way too long. And I think Andrew mentioned a little bit, every 5 years, though, USDA mandates that this food service contract go off a bit. So we are in year 5, as usual, and we have a choice right now to make some differences. So that's what we're looking to do. Cindy, if you want to flip that screen. Now, some of the challenges we have with our food service management contract, which is a different contract that we're talking about, the vended meals, is we're looking at menu creativity. We need more menu creativity. Marketing plan, our programs need to be marketed if we want our students to eat lunch. Student surveys, our students need to be surveyed as to what they like, what they don't like, et cetera. And something that keeps coming up, especially at the elementary level, is the quality of our meals. And they know, what we're dealing with. They know that we have to start cooking early, but they want changes. Believe it or not, kids in our elementary school will give you their very opinionated idea of what they want. And so we're trying to meet people and trying to get a little bit closer to what we're doing right now. We also experience a tremendous employee turnover, training and development for our employees, and continued management changes with the current type of our food service management contract. And right now, we don't have control over the destiny of our food service program. So we're looking to hone in on this, change it up, change our elementary program, and take a new path in food service. So what we're proposing right now, and I can see much better, is our option 1, and that is to put a food service management bid out currently like we have it right now, for comparison to what we want to do. Option 2, and it's a combination of 2 options. We want to put a vended meal bid out for our K-5 schools. And with that being said, along with that bid is bring the middle schools and the high schools back in-house and run the operation on our own. So option 2, again, would be a vended meal bid option, along with our middle schools and our high schools, bringing it back in-house and managing it on our own and internally. That is our proposal. The reason we're looking for this also is to change everything we've just talked about, our challenges. We want to be creative in our own menu creating by our own department. We want to do local menu planning and be able to, change it up when we can. Because when you're local and when you're doing it in-house, you can really make changes anytime you want to, but stay within the USDA regulations. We can do all that, and we've done it in the past. So we're also looking to improve our quality at K-5 sites, and that is imperative that we do that. I think we have a lot of room to grow with our elementary students if we improve the meals. There's a lot to be said about quality.
And we would best definitely be in control of our own destiny with our food service department. There would be no labor reduction at this time that we're presenting this to our cook staff at all. There'd be definitely change in their scope of job. And I've already talked to our cooks and they're very much interested in changing the scope of the job. They're in tune with what we're proposing. So that is what you have right now as to why we're looking at the changes that we would like to do. And that's where we are.
I do want to add something else as well. So in the blended model with a vended meal and cooking on site, we met with the ROE because essentially what we would have to do is, and we don't have to purchase the equipment. And in fact, right now, I wouldn't recommend that until we got a year or two under our belts to make certain we were satisfied with the quality and the program. But what they do is in the meal price, they would provide warming ovens. And they use the term ovens, but it's a warmer, it's not an oven. So the food is delivered to the school the day before, and then they essentially warm it from each lunch period to lunch period. So you don't have food sitting, masses of food sitting in warmers for the full 4 or 5 years. So it's flash frozen, it gets heated, and then the student eats it fresh
Use
from
it as you need
each.
it. Kind of thing.
It's called, in our world, it's called batch cooking. You're only cooking for the next lunch. So with every 15, 20 minutes, there's a new batch of food going in the ovens and coming right out. They don't experience that now. So you really have control of what you're cooking, how you're cooking it, how many kids you're cooking for, because we know how many students are every lunch.
Does anyone taste test it?
Actually, we have, yes. And I know you mentioned TV dinner. I want to get off that stigma, because there is a stigma attached to
TV
it.
dinners are.
TV. Yeah, they have actually. But, you know, in the past, for me, you think of a TV dinner, you're thinking of everything's like in the same plate, it's It's different than what we're looking for. We're looking at individually prepackaged frozen vegetables, individually packaged fruit, individually packaged entrees. So there is a difference. It's not coming out in one tray in the traditional stigma somewhat, although the stigma has come up a long way. And yes, to answer your question, yes, we have. There were quite a few of us that so far have test tasted. We're going to go out and keep test tasting different vendors at this point in time. We are very impressed. I was shocked actually, because of the quality. One thing we cannot do is cook vegetables and be presented in a manner that are, you know.
They do that at home.
Yeah, broccoli doesn't look like broccoli when we cook it and serve it. Yeah, and so there's a significant difference in quality.
So are you gonna let some of the kids taste test it?
Yes, and that's just part of the plan.
Can we get their opinion, because I mean,
Absolutely.
they're the ones that eat it anyway.
Yes, no, actually, and they will give good opinions because
They
of what we're doing right
and they
now.
still will have access to the fruit and veggie station.
Mhm.
So they will still be able to pick different components that way. And then part of the meal is already pre-plated for them.
Mhm.
So it as, in fact, even as far as waste, essentially doesn't happen. Because all of that is pre-plated, you don't have somebody, you know, doing that for you or moving from one site to another. But
Yeah, because that, you kind of partially answered, one of my questions was gonna be, will this help limit the amount of food or choices, I guess? Because, you know, like, they could have chicken, whatever,
Right.
popcorn chicken, piece of pizza, ham and cheese, whatever. And so will it help, because, and if they deliver it the day before, so when will the kids have to, say, place their orders?
You know,
If you, I guess.
kids kind of place their orders and they kind of don't. What goes
Yes.
on right now is we get counts from the secretaries.
Yes, right.
And the secretaries solicit all the classrooms.
Right.
Counts are never accurate, never.
Most of the time, no.
No, and they never will be because we have a human factor involved.
Well, sure.
Right.
And 5 and 6 year olds
Making
making
decisions.
decisions.
Yeah, they like to yeah, they like to say till they
Oh,
get there,
yeah,
then they
and
want
they
to.
get behind and they change their
Yeah.
minds.
Yeah,
And
I
that
know.
happens all the time.
Yes, it does.
It does, and
I
you know,
know.
they say, oh, we didn't know you had nachos, well, okay, I'm gonna lose my little chicken for my salad, and I'm gonna grab those nachos. So we do get better control, and yes, the choices are still there, and our salad bars, like Andrew mentioned, all the choices are still there. We're not gonna veer away from those choices.
Yeah.
It's just, we're gonna improve the quality of the meal tremendously.
So daily, they will still have a hot meal?
Yeah.
And then there'll be a salad or a sandwich,
Yeah.
a cold selection.
I kind of like that.
They have three choices right now, hot, cold salad, and a cold sandwich.
Right.
We're even looking to venture out to maybe 2 hot entrees, because I'm looking to what is gonna entice mom and dad to send the kids to school to eat lunch with us. And so we're kind of looking at whatever kind of options we can to increase the participation.
So then, other than Cortland, well, I guess maybe I can include, but do all the schools, elementaries have freezers where they can house these meals, you know?
They will.
They will.
They will. And was already double checked with Tammy, we've already run the electrical specs on everything,
Yeah.
what potentially we may need. With little tweaking in those existing kitchens, it'll be a small tweaking amount. But yes, right, because we want to deliver the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
It's a good idea.
Mhm.
I
And the
think
waste is gonna be, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
The
no.
waste that we have right now is tremendous.
You-
We
you don't have
we
to
throw
tell me.
out so much,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I carry out garbage every day. I know.
Yes,
what
it is. And part of that is USDA because of the mandate of taking a fruit or vegetable. We know that.
Yes.
But if we can eliminate that to where we're not, like when you serve vegetables, when we send vegetables, we're sending vegetables right now, currently in bulk, it's
Yes.
called. Okay, once it's out of the kitchen, it's going in the garbage if we don't use it.
Yes.
But we're gonna be able to control it right at the site
Yeah.
and be able to say, okay, it's broccoli. Okay, at first, they may not like broccoli, but once they see how green it's going to be, and it looks like broccoli, oh, our broccoli may go up. And that's the idea, is to
Yeah.
get them to participate in a better meal. And then that's how we'll be able to control it by, each lunch period.
And I think in the big picture too, it's really gonna help on cost, controlling costs.
Absolutely,
Sure.
it not only is it gonna help control the cost, it is gonna help us in a state audit. Because in a part of the state audit, and we are due for one for next year, one of the things they check when they're here for the whole week is they will stand by a server at different couple locations, and they will make sure if there's supposed to be 4 ounces of vegetable for
Yeah.
that day, they better well have a 4-ounce scoop. And that scoop better be level, because if it's like, and it's 6 ounces, that's a ding for us. But when we're talking about a vended meal program, the portioning is down to a science. We are never gonna worry about portion sizes, or somebody not having the right scoop, or the right ladle. That eliminates that risk.
If they're pre-plated, is it gonna help with getting kids to the line faster so they don't have to?
Yes,
I would think
yes,
so.
and it's gonna be like a grab and go. It'll be much easier, much simpler. The servers right now have to ask the kids at the elementary level, would you like broccoli, would you like broccoli? And they say that 10,000 times a day. So the broccoli is going to be there, it's gonna be all displayed as kind of like the vision we have, and it's like, oh, I want broccoli, I'm gonna grab that and go. So yes.
Yeah, it could be.
And that's one of our challenges too, is we can't get these kids through the lines. Even though some of the principals have extended the lunch periods, all that has done for us is spread out how long the food is sitting even more now. It helps with the capacity, but it doesn't help it does help our end because we have less kids in each lunch period, but.
You should talk to somebody too about the portions of peanut butter and jelly. See how much peanut butter a kid gets?
Yes,
It's terrible.
USDA,
The scoop's too big.
I know, we have to give them 2 ounces of protein, unfortunately.
Again, we still would be under the national school lunch program, so all of those stipulations are still intact.
What district around us uses this? The vended one?
Actually, Creston just
Really?
went
And you're 46, actually, yes, the credit program they just started this year.
Nice.
for
Yeah.
all their elementary. though.
Yes, correct,
Just-
elementaries,
Just
yes.
elementary.
Wow.
You
So there
46.
is actually a school right across from my home, and I'll be visiting there.
Neat. Nice.
Mhm.
It's good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the non-business consent agenda. But the Board of Education approved the non-business consent agenda items A through G. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, can we make a motion to add item H to this? So that we are amending the personnel action items to include the request for extended leave from Holly Thies with the recommendation of, to just include the request for extended leave from Holly Thies as item H. And then as, we also need to withdraw item number C from the agenda, we'll modify it to say that we are going to accept the voluntary resignation of Travis Bartley.
Second.
Roll call please.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Carol Miller,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Gunvalson.
Yes.
So now we have that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A, B, D through G. No. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call please.
Carol Miller,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicky Gunvalson.
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes. So we have that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda item H. Could you read that motion again, please?
That's the motion to include a request for extended leave from our employee Holly Tice.
So it's the motion, do we have a second on that?
Okay, second.
Roll call please.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman.
No.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Gunvalson,
No.
Mary Hess.
No.
Carol Miller.
No.
Victoria Newport.
Other than we need to make sure that we've changed item C, that we're accepting the voluntary resignation of Travis.
And what says that within that motion that was taken care of? Thank you.
Reference will be put in personnel.
Next, we have the business consent agenda. That the Board of Education approve the business consent agenda items A through D.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Howard Zolman,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Gunvalson.
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Carol Miller,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Next is business and finance. A 2016 tax levy adoption. This is an action item that the Board of Education adopt the 2016 tax levy as presented. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicky Gunvalson.
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Carol Miller,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman.
Yes.
Next, we have the approval of purchase of additional books for Little John Elementary School. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the purchase of Spanish books from Okipa Educational Publishing for a total of $6,301.70 to be purchased with Title I and Title III LEPS funding. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Vicky Gunvalson,
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Carol Miller,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Next, we have the temporary facility permit, Lincoln and Jefferson. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the temporary facility reports for Lincoln Elementary and Jefferson Elementary. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Carol Miller,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman, Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Gunvalson.
Yes.
Next is request to bid, Huntley Middle School, HVAC. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve administration to go out to bid for the Huntley Middle School HVAC improvements.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question. So if This should go through the pool lobby. We shut that off. We're not, I mean, right now we don't use the pool lobby.
That would not be part of the bid. That was the original bid in 2015, so it was noted in here as a number, so you had it for previous. But since the YMCA is no longer using that space, it would not be part of this
Okay,
next
thank
bid. If I could also mention, we would also request permission to bring back to the January meeting a request to bid for the Clinton Rosette. We have 6 classrooms at Clinton Rosette that just the end of last week after this was already submitted, we were notified of some improvements that they're recommending from our air quality company and our mechanical contractor due to issues with humidity and carbon dioxide levels in 6 classrooms at Clinton Rosette, some mechanical improvements that we'll be bringing forward as a bid. And again, since we were just receiving some information, I did meet with the architect and engineer on Monday, and we could package it into the Huntley Middle School HVAC bid, get some numbers so that we have some hard facts and be able to bring that back to consider it for a summer project.
Possibility of using some TIF funds as well.
Yes, we will be approaching the city of DeKalb, thank you, Dr. Paul, because it is one of the TIF buildings. We potentially have approximately 50,000 left in TIF funding after the tower is complete, which could be put towards this project.
Tammy, you spoke of packaging this with the Huntley Middle School HVAC. Is this similarly an HVAC acquisition? And are you looking to get the bids from the same set of bidders, or are you just packaging on paper?
The bid package would be designed in a way that the Huntley, the West Wing classrooms would be a base bid, so the board could accept or reject that base bid, and all the other Huntley recommended areas would be alternate bids. So again, once the base bid from Huntley is accepted, then we could consider those alternate bids for the subsequent areas. And then separately, there would be a base bid for Clinton Rosette Middle School for their project. So the board would have the option of approving the Huntley or the Rosette or both. It could be the same contractor, it could be separate. Typically, we do look for an incentive from the contractors by, if they choose to combine the 2 base bids, Clinton, Rosette, and Huntley together, there are contractors that will provide a cost at a lower cost if they are awarded both base bids. So those options will all be brought forward to you. We're looking at the last meeting in March would be when those bid results would be brought forward for a vote.
Okay, so we need to amend the motion to add Rosette's 6 classrooms with humidity and carbon dioxide issues into the base bidding process. Right?
Based on the timing, I believe I do need to bring it back at the January meeting for your approval to go to bid for the Clinton Rosette portion. So today, I think if we can just approve it as written and then get your permission to bring it back for approval for the Clinton Rosette portion.
That's what we talked about.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay. So I think we were under the impression you wanted to put these 2 together, so, okay.
The bid package will be, but I don't believe because of time that I can ask your permission at this time to go to bid for Rosette, we would need to bring the package.
Okay, so let me reread the motion. That the Board of Education approve administration to go out to bid for the Huntley Middle School HVAC improvements. As is, we motioned it. Okay, so go ahead. Roll call.
Terry Block,
Yes.
Victor Newbert,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Sumlin,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Katie Hearn Baker.
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes. Next, we have permission to bid transportation contract, and this is Ms. Anne Ray Orla. This is an information item.
So it's that time of year again for the transportation. And with transportation, you have to bid that either every 3 years. You could do a 2-year extension to that. So we have 2 options for you. Either we started the bid document. Although I also received from corporate, if you were interested in extending our current contract for fiscal year 2017-18, they would increase us by 3.5%. And our contract by 3.5%, and then for 2018-19, a 2.5% increase. Now, I will tell you, since this came from corporate, there's typically, I could go back and try and strong arm them a little more and negotiate that down. Or we just say we have no interest in going out to bid. So you tell me what your interest is. You don't have to take action on it, but if you just let me know, then I'll either call corporate and see what else we can do, or we just put the bid on the street and that comes back to you next month.
3% of what?
It's, well, the five, right, about 3 million, right, because we have salaries in there.
When something like this goes on to bid, approximately how many in the past have you sent out versus response from?
Right. I think last time we had 3 or 4 who requested the bid, but I believe we only ended up with 2. Yes,
Fuel costs,
yes,
are they borne by the people included within the bid?
good question. So the way we write the bid, unless we're directed to do something different, is the school district pays for the fuel. And it used to be included in the contract, and that, if it's included in the contract, they have to tax us on it. Because we are a school district, if we purchase it direct, we get an additional discount from the state to not have to pay the tax.
And we pay that kind up front, right, the fuel?
Well, we pay the fuel, we may get a fixed price for a period of time, and we could buy it, so many gallons at a time at that fixed rate, and then go out on the open market.
And we get a percentage of the refund from the state, supposed to?
Right, well, the state reimburses us based on the claim, and over the last few years, that keeps getting reduced. So, for transportation, right, we're down to about 50% from the state.
What would you advise for?
Well, it is a large contract, but there also is transitioning happening at the school district with a lot of different folks. So I have mixed feelings on it, because even though we don't do this in-house, to turn that over to a completely new company and get new people set in place is a huge endeavor. And anything that could incite parents, it's untimely buses, or buses not showing up. And it is a huge production. I mean, we transport over 4,300 students on a daily basis. And although, the growth is coming more and more to DeKalb, we are kind of still out there. So a lot of the bus companies aren't even interested, because virtually what they would have to do in this period of time is either look for another site to set up their buses, or take over where First Student is, and negotiating rental agreement and all of this such with who is currently there. So truly it is a very huge endeavor if you're making a change. I will say, with the staff that we have had, and Jason Kelly, who is our director, has been fabulous. And these past couple of years have been tremendous in working with them. And Jason is out there if there is a bus accident or if there is a student incident that is occurring, and he is really on top of it. And right now, we also had changed, I think this was about 3 or 4 years ago, where our routing is actually done in Missoula, Montana. And the individual who does it off-site there has been fabulous. In fact, she did all our redistricting, remapped everything and set those boundaries. And when you look at how many students we serve and how many families we serve, it was very little upset to folks that we were even doing this as far as bus stops and all of that.
Just a comment, I called Jason 4:30 in the morning yesterday. He answered the first ring and indicated the fact that all the buses had been started every 3 to 5 hours. And so we called school not because the buses wouldn't start, but just because of the cold nature.
And I suppose like everything else in life, when things are going up, whether it be maintenance or replacing equipment and whatnot, so. It's just up to us to decide whether or not we feel like that's fair.
What's your timing if you to bid? What
Good
is that?
question. So actually, so what we could do is, if that's an interest, I could call corporate back and say, we need something better than this. Otherwise, we're going to bid. There is no option. Then in January, you would take action on allowing us to go out to bid, and then we have a pre-bid meeting, and we have all of that scheduled out as we're required to do. If they come back with something and it doesn't look appealing,
We still have time to go out to bid with
Absolutely.
January 17th.
absolutely. But with your permission, at least I could call them and try and get something better than what you're.
Andrew, can you give us any kind of idea in terms of percent or total dollars ballpark for fuel, labor, and equipment, what the breakout is, those 3 components? That's really the 3 components that make this up.
Right.
So, and then right now, are we buying the fuel right now?
We do.
That's what I thought.
We
Okay,
do.
We spent about 450,000 on fuel,
okay.
and that was last year. We had some pretty decent rates. Actually, we're just coming off the contract, we were only paying $1.71 for diesel.
Good deal.
Yeah, so when we secured that back in the spring, so we'll be doing
Yeah.
something similar.
Actually, Reed has been working with
Conserve on us, but they fuel up at the T stations.
Right.
I want to throw on a few of them vended meals too. Sweet, yeah.
No, he came in and proposed some ideas for us and negotiating a price and keeping it in bulk like that, and it is obviously worked for our benefit. As far as for staffing, it's really Brenda, who is our transportation liaison. It's her salary, and then, which I take somewhat offense to this, but for some reason, they don't let the business official, a salary go under there, but they do the superintendent.
What kind of increase did you build into the budget next year for transportation?
Usually we're about 4% in our.
Yeah, but the question that I asked, really, what I was trying to get at is 3.5% or 2.5% these next 2 years. Is that realistic or not? And that's going to be based on, if we do it as we are now, where we buy the fuel and Brenda takes care of what she does. But for the contractor, the 3.5% or whatever it is that realistic based on cost of labor increase?
It is.
And, depreciation on equipment?
So, good point. And here's something that we're up against in food service as well. It has been a bit of a challenge for us in DeKalb as well, is finding folks to work. Part-time, certainly for bus drivers. Bus drivers anywhere they're always trying to recruit that. So I will tell you, I do know with First Student, their labor contract is up in June. So they will be renegotiating the contract. So when they're giving us these prices ahead of time, they don't know where they're going to land. I will tell you though, as I've checked with other school districts, they've had to significantly increase the cost of driver pay to attract folks. So I would anticipate that going out to bid or not even is going to cost more because that hourly per pay has to move up or you just can't recruit people. They have offered flat screen TVs, $1,000 signing bonuses, and it is. It's not an easy job and it's one that has turnover. I'd say while Jason is here, we've seen far less turnover than in my 11 years here, really. And he has a very good rapport with his drivers and with the union, so that is not happening as much, nearly as much.
And I know Jason too is out at our buildings. He's very visible, so he's doing a very good job.
Right.
And as far as cost increase on labor pool for a contractor, with the economy beginning to cook, and if it does as well as some people say it might do going forward with the administration, those labor costs could go up quite a bit. You have more competition for the same, I would say, relatively low wage workers.
Right.
So if you can keep with what you have and they're all good, then maybe that's the safe thing to do.
The continuity of a driver, especially in our geographic area where they're going out, to some of these more rural areas and all of that are challenging. And, if they're not acquainted with our area, they get lost. A cornfield is a cornfield.
Yeah.
So do we then, let me give Andrea permission to go back to corporate and try and see what's going on, if we can get a better rate. And if not, we can talk about going out to bid at the January 17th meeting. Is everybody okay with that? Yep. Thank you. Need for 0.5 early childhood FTE. This is an informational item.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jenny. The 2017-2018 calendar proposal. This is also an informational item.
Right.
Dr. Huber.
So you will notice that with the proposed school calendar for the 17-18 school year, it looks really identical to what this year's calendar looked like, except for one very major difference. The first and the last day of student attendance would be a half day. Students would be in school for 3 hours, and then the remaining part of that day, teachers would be provided with in-service and/or a school improvement day. And in checking with surrounding communities are going the route of that half-day student attendance, really half-day then teacher in-service, teacher or school improvement. So that's the difference with the school calendar.
Questions for Jenny? No? Thank you. Okay, now we have need for 0.5 early childhood FTE. Christy Meyer, and this is an informational item.
Thank you. We also have Lisa Bartels here tonight.
I'm just here.
And this is a position that will be at the ELDC. Lisa, would you like to speak to the need?
Every year for the past 7-ish years, we've filled all of our 20 spots in each of our 3 existing EC special ed classrooms, and therefore had to open up another classroom. We're capped at 10. We can go up to 12, but we have to hire another individual assistant or classroom assistant. We always fill at least that half-time 10 by the end of the school year. Usually we go into that second half as well. So we usually end up with the year in the new section with about 13 kids. So that's where
This is
we're
a
at.
mandated number. Like Lisa said, we see the students coming down the birth to 3 and they're 3 years old. Once they're 3 years old, we take them. So that's.
I have 4 existing openings after winter break, and I have a set of twins with a great deal of needs coming in, as well as 3 other students. And that's just January.
You were able to see the numbers from 0 to 3 in ages. What do you see in the future of students coming into the program? Is it still climbing, or is it going to be
No,
steady?
it's climbing. I've done a number of home visits this past 2 to 3 weeks, and there's students with significant needs coming down the pipe, plus foster kids that are moving in. So unfortunately, we just have a lot of needs in that birth to 3 demographic.
So this is a position you don't see just for the second semester, you see it as moving forward, having, or.
Historically, we've filled it because we have graduates. We have our 5-year-olds going on to kindergarten into our special programs. And so what we do then is we hire this person on a temporary basis, because then we have room starting in the fall. It's unfortunate for the individual that we hire that it's temporary, but it's fiscally
So it's temporary,
We are,
or just,
we are going to be strategic, hopefully, in our hiring. Because also we have an it's called indicator 6 that we're trying to respond to, which is also part of our audit, said that we need to really look at our EC pre-K programs and look at a blended model. The state is saying, DeKalb, you need to look at a blended model. And so what we're hoping to do is secure someone who has that, both the pre-K and special ed endorsements, and so that perhaps down the line, or we shift staff, but perhaps down the line, we look at a blended program.
And then we can serve our at-risk youth who are served right now under our Pre-K for All grant, as well as our EC kids. And we can do 14 Pre-K for All and 6 EC special ed and blend them in the morning and afternoon. So essentially serve 28 more at-risk kids and 12 more EC special ed.
do we have a consensus to bring this back as an action item on the next meeting? Yes. All right, thank you. Next, we have District 428 lice policy, and this is an action item. That the Board of Education vote to approve the attached lice policy and protocols to put the policy into practice.
Do I make the motion that we approve document 2?
That we what?
Approve document 2.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Byrne in favor,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Jim Willett,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes. Next, we have approval of reposting of PBE Arabic teaching FTE at Jefferson Elementary School. This is an action item. That the Board of Education reopen and post the transitional bilingual education Arabic teaching position for Jefferson Elementary. If the position is not filled within 30 days, it is recommended that the position be posted as transitional program of instruction teacher, Arabic preferred, with a requirement of an English as a second language endorsement for the remainder of fiscal year 17. Yeah, that's not. Do we have a second, or do we want to have some discussion? Yes, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask, where does this fall within the budget that we have already?
Where all the FTEs that we budgeted for have been filled. So this
So
is
this-
extra. This would be extra.
This would be an extra. This is one that was posted previously. We could not fill it. But we did fill it with home aid. But the need has become that we require.
Christie, how did we fill this?
We did, and we did fill with an ESL teacher who speaks English to serve the ESL needs of the building. That was 3 years ago, 4 possibly.
2014, this was filled with a homeschool liaison who spoke Arabic. This
Oh.
is a requirement of the state law that 23 Illinois Academic Code 2025, where you have 20 or more speakers of one language in a building, you have to offer bilingual education. So that's the state law. At the time we approved this in 2014, we had 28 Arabic speaking English learners. Now we're up to 37 at Jefferson. What we did when we couldn't find an Arabic teacher, we posted it as a homeschool liaison. We hired an Arabic speaking homeschool liaison. That position has been unfilled now for 2 months. So in order to show the state that we are trying to comply with the law, we have to post it again and try to fill that position. Again, our enrollment of English learners at Jefferson is up to 101 students as of last week. And so we're hoping if we can't fill with Arabic, we at least fill with ESL and get someone to get their Arabic endorsement.
So I'm understanding, so does this mean that you do or don't have a homeschool liaison in that?
We don't, they left. We have been
And
unable
that
to fill that.
position was not filled.
try to fill it.
So basically, they're down a position at Jefferson.
So we're not adding. This was a position that was,
Yeah.
that
So-
was there.
So it's not adding a new FTE, it's just replacing the one that left.
Right.
Okay. Do you have more questions?
No. Thank you.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Do we have any other discussion? Very second.
I got a question. Is there any kind of an idea, this is growing apparently, right, these English language learners. Have you got any idea what the curve looks like?
No.
Okay.
I wish there was some way we could know and we could predict. I can tell you it keeps growing, and that's the upward trend. You know, when I started in 2007 here, we had 450. Right now, we have over 800. So just in a 10-year period, it's almost doubled.
Do you attribute this to NIU and that breaking in?
Yeah, so the Arabic population, the majority comes to us from NIU. They have, is it the Fulbright Scholarship, something like that. Yeah, they bring in professors, they bring in students, and then they bring their children. So
And we haven't had any success with having them assist us in filling.
they do at NIU offer tutoring outside of school, but as far as helping us within the school district, no.
That's something to work on in the future.
Yeah, that's. Yep. Roll call, please.
Gord Almond,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Carrie Malott,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Next, we have the academic literacy removal for the 2017-2018 school year. This is an action item. That the Board of Education adopt a proposal for removal of academic literacy from the course offerings for 2017-2018, but leave the course on the books if future need arises. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to ask one question. So in this course, there are, it's my understanding they teach like how to study, how to take notes and everything. Is that going to be replaced anywhere for students who need that? Where?
Well, initially, the plan is through our instructional coaches here at the high school, that those tools and those skills will be taught across the curriculum, rather than being isolated in a class per se. The strategies will be implemented across the student's day.
So it would be an option to all students,
Yes.
or not an option?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Carrie Malott,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Sullivan.
Yes.
Next is executive functions curriculum, SMARTS, and this is an action item. Patient approve the purchase of the SMARTS program to serve the needs of students with executive dysfunction. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion, Christie, do you maybe want to talk briefly about this? Again, just, it sounded like there was some, does anybody need? Christie?
I just want to verify there's only one teacher. that
Correct,
uses
yes,
currently.
it will be, we're going to implement it with one teacher. And for that $595 for one license at this point. And see how the results are.
So this isn't final.
I would like to see how we can broaden it in the future and if the funding is available through IDEA.
Any other questions or? Roll call, please.
Vicky Green,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Carrie Malott,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Sullivan.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Support contract renewals for the Cisco SmartNet Movie Licensing USA and Solar Winds. And this is an action item that the Board of Education approve the Cisco Smart Nets board renewal contract for $92,904.92. The movie licensing USA contract renewal for $4,742, and the Solar Winds Performance Monitoring renewal contract for $6,701.
So
Second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Karen Black,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Henderson.
Yes. And next is approval of restructuring of the technology department. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the recommended changes for restructuring of the technology department staff outlined as attached. So,
Second.
discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Karen Black,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Zolman,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Henderson,
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes. And with that, the meeting will be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.